Welcome to the Zambian Jewels Podcast, a podcast where we talk about Zambian gemstones, the people, stories, and places that keep the industry going. We are the hosts. My name is Samba Yonga. I do comms, culture, and promote everything authentically Zambian.
And I am Rashmi Sharma, a gemologist and jeweler, trying to put Zambian gemstones on the global gemstone landscape. Join us in conversation.
So Aquamarine is my birthstone, and I'm really interested in hearing more about it because
you're born
it's so
in March.
versatile. Yeah, I was born in March.
Yes,
the
Aquamarine.
28th. Yeah.
Yeah, and somebody else is born in March.
Special people. Yeah. So tell us a little more about Aquamarine.
So Aquamarine belongs to the beryl family, beryllium aluminium silica. It's colored by iron. And sometimes when they need to enhance the color, they bombard it with cobalt, but we don't have to do any of that in Zambia. Zambia has aquamarines that are light blue, sky blue, double blue, and the one I've coined, which is a triple blue. And that is like the deepest, sometimes looks like a sapphire, and I should have worn my triple blue aquamarines. And nobody else, Santa Maria aquamarines from South America are beautiful. But the really dark, deep blue aquamarines that come from here, I haven't seen them in very many places.
And how is that? How is that you say that again? Like, so we have, what are the types
light
that
blue,
we have? Mm-hmm.
They're almost insipid. They're almost white. Mm-hmm. And then you have the light blue or the sky blue. Table, yeah. Yes, we've got aquamarine on the table as well. The beautiful aquamarine we have on the table is a 163 carat flawless piece, cut into a step cut, and initially it was 180 carats.
So it was a single piece and then cut into.
Yes.
That's crazy.
Yes, and it was cut by one of the best cutters, and he's also present on another podcast, Amon Banda, and his favorite gemstone to cut is an aquamarine, and he's the one who cut that. And he takes great pride in cutting aquamarines because when they're this clean and this flawless, they have the best luster. They have immense fire and luster. And it's cut to perfection. All the facets are well matched and there's total internal reflection. But this piece in particular was 180 carats. It was even bigger than this. And it had an inclusion on the edge. So you can't just take off an aquamarine off of one edge, then it's cockeyed. It's bent. Then you've got to recut the whole stone. So I would rather have a 163 carat flawless good blue aquamarine bordering double blue than an aquamarine that is 180 carat with a flaw in it.
So we also have a double blue because you talked about the light.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's exactly. So the aquamarine that is on the table right now, if I can hold it in my hand.
Yeah. I mean, if you have to, whoever is listening to this, if you're listening on audio, you have to go and see this on the screen. It is absolutely magnificent. And how many sides is this? Because you talked about cutting it on the different sides. So this is a step cut, and it's the easiest cut for an aquamarine because it grows in this hexagonal structure. So it's a long crystal, and all you do is just facet off the edges and leave the table, which is almost already there. It's for you not to touch. It's almost like a cleavage break. Wow.
Yeah.
So beautiful.
And so when it comes out this clean, it's actually it's a specimen because we don't find them this clean. Or in Zambia, you do. Let's just say that. Right?
And that's an interesting characteristic about the Zambian gemstones, right? There's something about them that you find particularities that you won't with other gemstones. So.
Well, the thing is, because we're still new, we're still scratching the surface. And I mean, when I say surface, maybe you'll go 20, 30 meters deep on this. But I mean, that's still the surface. And if we're getting big pieces like that, imagine what you're going to get lower down in the ground. We just need to keep on mining. And then once you start mining, make sure that you regrow or resand the pit so it's environmentally sound. And then you move on with the vein. You follow the veins and you extract more aquamarine, and then you cover your holes and plant your trees. So there's got to be responsible mining as well. We have to talk about responsible mining at some point.
Yeah, we will. But I think
we go back to aquamarine. Yes. So aquamarine belongs to the same family as an emerald, which is green, morganite, which is pink, yellow-green, which is heliodor. And so as your chromophore, so remember in the emeralds, for all of you who have not listened to the Emerald podcast, it is also aluminium, beryllium, silica, but its coloring agent is chromium, which is why you pay top dollar for emerald. The chrome is what you're actually paying for. And then aquamarine, you're paying for the iron.
Right.
And when the iron is replaced by a manganese, it's a morganite. And I am currently wearing a morganite necklace, a morganite bangle, morganite ring, because it complements the shirt that I'm wearing. But morganite looks like a pink diamond. Oh, and because we're not going to do an entire podcast on morganite, I think we should talk about morganite as well. It's rapidly.
You're wearing one, right?
I'm wearing 1, 2, 3, and my earrings are morganite. Yeah. And so it's really recently, taken off as a very beautiful gemstone, and the demand has increased so much where I've seen a double, triple in value. And same as our double blue aquamarines. There's another one which is a yellow-green, but it resembles a tourmaline, which is the Heliodor, and I think it's colored by manganese or cesium. There's a conflict on which book or which Bible you will use, but we won't talk about that because we don't have much of the Heliodors or Bixbite, which is the red beryl. I mean, that is extremely valuable.
Explain that. That's interesting. So the beryl, how does it turn into aquamarine and how does it turn into?
Okay, so if you have a diamond, it is a basic structure. Carbon, 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 4 carbons in a bipyramid structure will give you a white diamond. If one of those carbons is replaced by a nitrogen molecule, you have a yellow diamond, which makes it fancy. And then if it is replaced by boron, it may become red or blue. It just depends on what the rare earth or the rare chromophore is, and it'll change color. So similarly, aluminium, beryllium, silica, one of those molecules is replaced by an iron, a chrome, a manganese, and subsequently you will have a change of color in that gemstone. So the properties are all the same. So they have the same refractive index. Remember I mentioned refractive index? The angle at which light bends, and that's what they use to cut the gemstones to get total internal reflection.
Exactly.
They have the same specific gravity. That means when you are looking at gemstones of similar sizes, different gems will weigh different weights, even though they're the same size, because they have different densities.
Okay.
So all the beryls have the same density. They have the same refractive index, similar. Zambian refractive indices are a little bit higher than most others because of the iron content. But I mean, what I want to explain is that aquamarine is the sizes that we get, the clarity that we get, the vitreous lusters that we get. And then, of course, our cutting is second to none. So the value addition on aquamarine is immense. And, we've been selling aquamarines for decades. I know when my brother was mining, and then even in the 90s or purchasing, some of our success stories were aquamarine based.
Right.
Yeah, one of his very first stories was selling an aquamarine the size of his fist, so to some buyers, that flew in. And I was still at university, and he sent me an email to say, I bought this aquamarine, I sold it for this much, and that helped us pay our school fees.
Oh, that's incredible.
Yes.
I just want to come back to that particular point about the popularity of the aquamarine and the morganite and the positioning on the market. I mean, if you walk into a room here in Zambia or Lusaka, if you say emerald, they'll know it better than they know an aquamarine. But what is the...
So you're comparing it, all right? So emerald is a precious because of its chromophore, which is chrome-based. And aquamarine runs into the semi-precious because of its iron chromophore. But when you have 163 carat flawless double blue aquamarine, it's no longer a semi-precious. It's very popular in terms of the precious. It's a specimen.
So crazy.
Yeah, so 163, sorry, correct me. Corrected. So aquamarine has always been very popular. People with blue eyes, we're African, so we don't see many of these blue eyes. But Europeans with the blue eyes, the intense blue, they're always matching aquamarine to their eyes. And the first thing I say when I look into their eyes is like, you need to buy a green aquamarine or a blue aquamarine, but a shade of aquamarine. And so I think aquamarines have always been very popular internationally. It's just that we are, as Zambians, don't know what we have yet. Right? An aquamarine, a triple blue aquamarine is a very precious aquamarine. It can fetch thousands of dollars a carat because they're that rare.
That's really incredible.
Yes. And like at Morganite, it's
So how do
picking
we
up
make
in
it
popularity because of its resemblance to pink diamond. Pink diamonds are in the hundreds of thousands of dollars per carat, even half a carat. But then so you can wear a Morganite instead.
You're wearing a Morganite.
I'm wearing Morganites.
Yeah.
Even I can't afford a pink diamond. I wanted one for my wedding, but nah, that was a long time ago. Definitely couldn't afford.
And a different podcast as well. But
Yes.
Okay, cool. So where are the aquamarines found?
So Petauke, Lundazi, eastern part of Zambia, right? Also flowing into Mozambique. So that whole belt, that whole region has lots of aquamarine. And they've been mining there for decades. They've been pulling out aquamarines. It's not just that in that area, Teji area. There are a few other findings, but maybe the quality of the best aquamarine, or the deepest colors, are the ones that are closer to Mozambique.
Okay. So we've talked about the emeralds, and there's the emeralds, there's the high end to the low grade. Where on the gradient of pricing, positioning, and market would aquamarine fall for it to make sense in the industry? What kind of conversation would need to be had?
Let's talk about beading again.
Yeah.
We've talked about emerald beads. You can have aquamarine beads. Right? You can have them at $2 a carat, $1 a carat. You can sell aquamarines in the kilos if it's the lower grade and the highly included grade. Like the crystals that you have on top of my table right in front of us. If we ended up beating those, I would never beat those because those are perfect crystals, hexagonal, very nice tubular prisms. But if we were to beat them, they'd sell per kilo. They wouldn't sell per carat. And a carat is 1/5 of a gram. I have to keep on reminding people what a carat actually is. And then you have 163 carat flawless. So there's an entire range, just like emeralds. You can start from $5, you can go up to 50,000. Same with aquamarines. You can start with 50 cents and go up to 5,000.
So it's really about the skill that is required, because we need to be very practical as well.
The skill of adding value. You can ruin a gemstone by cutting it poorly, or you can enhance its value by cutting it perfectly. Just like any gemstone, you can have an entire range depending on the 4 C's, right? Which is the color, clarity, cut, and carat weight. So a lot of people think the bigger the stone, the more valuable it'll be. Not necessarily. You can have a big stone that is just not nice. It's full of inclusions or poorly cut. It's very difficult to get a bigger stone with perfection.
Okay. So one of the things I want to make very clear is you mentioned we have aquamarine in abundance, right? So what would be the other factors that would be needed to make it make sense as an industry?
As aquamarine as an industry on its own?
Not on its own, but as part of the value chain.
It's a Zambian product, right? You throw emeralds with aquamarines, with tourmalines, with garnets, with amethyst, with citrine, with all the other gemstones that we have. And it creates an industry on its own. The gemstone industry has to have aquamarine in it because it is appreciated internationally. And the morganites and the heliodors. All the colors of beryl. Right, so they form part of the industry. I'm not sure I understand that question very well, but have I explained it properly?
No, you've explained it very well, but each one, I'm just wondering whether each of the gemstones could be standalone. You know what I mean? Like how we have Ammon as the cutter, right? And that's...
Tourmaline can be its standalone, but we'll talk about that another time.
Okay.
This belongs to the beryls. Emerald stands alone because it's a precious. Aquamarine is a semi-precious unless it's a specimen.
Okay.
Big enough and clean enough. It has all the 4 C's intact. And I'm talking about above 100 carats, right, with perfection. It has a character, first of all, and it has a certification to tell you exactly what it is. Yeah, so it has all the 4 C's.
The 4 C's are?
Color is always the first one. So what attracts you most to a gemstone is usually the color. And then the fire, the brilliance, which is the cut. And the clarity combined will give you the brilliance. Because otherwise inclusions block the light that goes in and comes out, right? And then the carat weight. Those are the 4 C's. And every gemstone has its 4 C's. And that's what makes it perfect or making industry worth.
This is a nice segue into the next segment where Raj will be talking to a cutter, because we've talked a lot about the art of cutting, the skill that is required, how you need to be careful.
Gemstone cutters are called lapidarists.
Exactly.
Because they require special equipment,
Yes,
lapidary equipment.
And what is a lapidarist?
Well, a lapidarist must understand the critical angles or refractive index of every gemstone, the vectors involved in cutting a stone, so that they don't miss, none of the light escapes from the back. They don't miss the facet, the angles that are required to reflect it instead of escape the light.
Right. So somebody look at, it's basically the person who makes the gemstone that shape.
So
have that shape.
So Raj and I will decide on the shape. The lapidarist will decide on the facets. The facets will give it the sparkle that is returned to your eyes as it winks at you with every angle. From every angle, when you look at a gemstone head on, it sparkles back at you. And that's the lapidarist's job. If this was a largely windowed stone, it would be a dead stone. That means the lapidarist did not follow the correct angles.
And that's a specific skill.
That is a specific skill.
I'm interested to hear Raj's conversation with him.
That's right, yes. And he will be able to explain that perfectly.
Great.
Because he himself is a lapidarist.
Oh, Raj?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I'm the gemologist. He's the mining engineer and the lapidarist.
And many other things, it seems. And now join us for the industry segment with Raj Sharma and Amon Banda.
My name is Raj Sharma, the Managing Director of Jewel of Africa, and I'd like to welcome you, Mr. Amon Banda, to today's podcast on the Zambian Jewels. Welcome. And for the benefit of our listeners today, would you introduce yourself formally and tell us your journey and place in the gemstone sector?
Thank you very much, Raj. And it's actually a pleasure to be on this podcast. And like you already said, my name is Amon Banda. My journey to gemstone cutting, well, it's quite a funny story. And it wasn't my intention, actually, to go into it. But then I used to work for a family that had a mine. And they started a company called Colour Gemstone Industries. And then the way they got me interested was they asked me if I could be interested to go to the States to learn how to cut stones. And I had no idea on anything to do with gemstones other than my knowledge of geography. So, I mean, just the prospect of going to the States, this is maybe about 35 years ago, really excited me. So I said, okay, I wouldn't mind. But then along the way, what they did, what happened was they said, okay, fine, why don't we get in a Brazilian to come and teach you and a couple of other people on how to cut gemstones? Then you can go to the States later on to polish up your act. I said, oh, okay, well, there was still that prospect of going to the States. So, okay, fine. So they brought in a master cutter from Brazil, Antonio Fernando Ribeiro. And that's how my interest grew. And I mean, it was just an amazing experience to get a rough stone and then sew it, preform it, dop it, and then cut and polish it into something that sparkle. So, and from then the rest is history. And here I am, cutting stones for a living.
And you're still cutting actively?
Yes, I do. I do cut stones actively, and though these days I'm a bit fussy about what I cut. I mean, with age, you just don't gonna cut any small stones. I mean, it's something that is really tickles my fancy, and I think it's going to cut out a nice stone. Yeah, I'll do it. I'll work all night until it's done.
Now, Amon, you and I over the years have collaborated many a time on cutting some exquisite gems for Jewel of Africa. Some of these projects have turned out to be absolutely world famous gemstones. Tell me, do you still consider yourself a good cutter?
I think I'm like wine. I'm getting better with age.
That's a good way to put it. Is it difficult to become a cutter?
Well, is it difficult to become a footballer? Is it difficult to become an entrepreneur? Is it difficult to become... if your mind is not into it, yes, it is difficult. But if you put your mind to it, nothing is impossible.
I hear you. Do you agree with me that the gemstone industry in Zambia has great potential to become an engine of growth for the national economy?
Great potential, yes. But you see, the gemstone sector, like you and I have already have discussed this and labored and argued and misunderstood each other and called each other names. And the gemstone sector has a lot of facets to it. It's just not about cutting stones, no. First, in the first place, it's about mining and having the stones to be able to cut, okay? And it's just not good stones. And I think one thing we as Zambians should understand is that Zambia is not an island, and Zambia is not the only country that produces quality gemstones in the world. We are there in producing some of the best emeralds, best aquamarines, but there are also other countries that are doing the same thing. So we are actually competing with other countries. So when I talk about facets, or different facets to the industry, you're looking at production, okay? What are the production levels right now? I think you will agree with me. I think that the production levels have lamentably been reduced.
We had Mr. Joe Mwanzakawuswe here earlier, and we talked at length about the mining sector in the gemstone industry, particularly on artisanal and small-scale miners. So I hear your plea. So as a cutter, you're saying it's difficult for you to get high-quality gems.
You're absolutely right on that, because 20, 30 years ago, Raj, think the time you were at Mosaic Kenyatta, the time you were at Intercon, I mean, starting from the time when you were in town, I mean, it was practically impossible to come into your office because you would have maybe about 6, 7 other people that are waiting, and these guys have got parcels of stones. I mean, it's not like they've only got one stone. No, they've got about 1 kilo of double blue aquamarine. They've got like Kalomo amethyst. They've got emeralds, and these are guys that are.
We don't see that anymore.
Yes, we don't see that anymore.
Why do you think that is?
I think, like I said, there are too many facets to it. One, I think most of the mines have been abandoned, because what used to happen most of the times is that the people that used to mine these stones, right, are what are termed as illegal miners, right? And now these guys, what would happen is that, I mean, he's farming or he's doing something, and then he comes across a pocket of aquamarine, and then he brings it into town. Now, what is happening is that those people are being told they have got to have artisanal mining licenses. Yes, it's good for the government to keep tab and in line with to say who's mining what, right? But over and above, mining has become very, very difficult and sophisticated, because the surface stones, I think, have all been mined. Now, what you're talking about is the underground stones, and when you want to mine,
it's more expensive to go underground now.
It's more expensive, but
to go deeper,
very, very expensive. But even having said that, there's the other facets to it as well, because our mining policies within the country, I think, you agree with me, are very, very wanting. If you go to Tanzania, right, and then you want to buy Tanzanite, you as a foreigner are not allowed. You are not allowed to go into the Tanzanite mining areas. You are only allowed to go and see the gem dealers, the licensed gem dealers who are based either in Arusha or Dar es Salaam. What we have now is any Jim and Jack comes into Zambia without a license, without nothing. They go to the mining areas, they camp there, they buy, and they zoom out. We don't have a system whereby we can actually be able to prohibit these people who just come in, and where we can actually be able to properly channel the material which is being mined to the rightful people that are supposed to be buying those materials. So you find that, for instance, you go to Lundazi, and here the Chinese, the Indians, the West Africans, they're camped there, right? So those stones do not actually come into
the formal industry itself.
They don't come into the formal industry.
I remember in the olden days, any so-called illegal miner could come to a formal entity such as your office or mine, and as long as it entered into the formal system through our offices, it was then legitimate.
Yes.
Because we were the ones either value adding to the production or we were exporting legally. So there was no need for smuggling it, especially in the old days when export of gemstones was zero rated in any case. I don't see why we should smuggle this out. So how can we control this scourge?
The government has to have a will.
So ours is not to tell government what to do. What we can do is highlight the challenges we're having, and hopefully the policymakers will listen to our pleas.
I think, Raj, you and I have discussed this at length with the different governments, and we've written 10-point papers and presented it to them. First, it has to start with the miners themselves, because the miners themselves have to understand that when they come to us, we are going to give them a fair deal.
Why? What stops you from not giving them a fair deal?
No. The miners have to understand that we are going to give them a fair deal. Okay, because what is happening now is that, like you rightly put it, because they have to pay a 6% mineral royalty tax. Because when they come to me, I have to ask them to say, "Do you have this documentation?" They'll say, "No, they don't have the documentation." The Chinese in the bush will not ask them for any documentation, but then we have to educate the miners using Joe Kabuswe's organization, the confederation, to say it is important for them to pay the 6% mineral royalty tax, right? For now, what I'm doing is that, and I think you're also doing the same thing, whereby somebody brings in a good stone and then he doesn't have any documentation. You school them through to say it is important for you to have this documentation, because if you don't have this documentation, you can be arrested, or I can just get these stones and then take them to the police.
I hear you.
So what happens now is that it is now incumbent upon you and myself and the other people who are in the industry who wants everybody to go straight to say, okay, fine, I'm going to pay the 6% on your behalf, right? So we are paying the 6% on their behalf, but we're also hoping that they can go legit by going to the Ministry of Mines and getting those documentation. Now, if the miners themselves, the artisanal miners, they have that documentation, right? They'll have no reason to sell to the Chinese or to sell to the people at the mines, because even the person that is buying has to have the proper documentation to say, okay, fine, I have a buying license, right? I have a buying license. Here it is. That here is my buying license, and then the miner sells to him.
So if I'm getting you right, first of all, we are not producing as many gemstones as we used to in the past. So cutters, or lapidarists as they are referred to in the industry, are finding it difficult to secure production.
Exactly.
But you get some production once in a while. How do you think we can ensure that those coming after us will have better access to rough gemstones for value addition in this country of ours?
Raj, I'm glad you've asked that question, because in everything that you do, you've got to have a deliberate policy. Because even you, as a Jewel of Africa, I think you set up your goals to say, by the end of this year, I want to be able to earn so much, blah, 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 blah. Now, this is where the government comes in. Because the government, right, has shares in some of the most productive mines in the country, okay? And the government can declare a policy to say, whichever mine is producing and they're taking your returns, you have to offload. Right now, the key word is offload. You have to offload X amount of gemstones onto the local market.
Okay, I hear you. But tell me, once you offload, and even if you wanted to, or if you could coerce private sector players into offloading certain share of their production onto the local market, do you think there are companies or local players in the industry that are willing and able to buy this production?
Raj, Jewel of Africa, if some for the correct value, right? For a correct value, if somebody came with a stone, would you refuse to buy it? The answer is no. For a correct value,
if we could afford it,
yes, if
we had the disposable income,
yes. So even the person, I mean, it's no guarantee. Right, you've been to these shows. It's no guarantee that the guy from Jaipur or the guy from Bangkok pays a better price than you. It's no guarantee.
True, and I suppose
But
what we could advocate for would be a first right of refusal.
Yes.
And if we don't buy it, then it goes back onto an auction floor on the international market.
Yes, because I think, right, look at it this way. The government has set up a cutting school in Dola, right?
Yes.
And I was just talking to one of the tutors there, and then I was asking him about how many students have passed through the school. Today, he tells me over 500, okay? Over 500.
So you're saying there's over 500
who have
qualified cutters in this country?
qualified. Well, that's a discussion for another day. You know how long it takes for somebody to be able to qualify to come and work for Jewel of Africa, and Rashmi will give that person an emerald to cut.
Well, it takes, and that's why we still come back to you every week and say, would you cut it? Because I suppose it takes a long while to get the experience right to cut a world-class gemstone.
Yes.
But bringing you back onto cutting, there are, as you said, 500 odd people who have already formally passed through some sort of tertiary education in cutting of gemstones. These are our young nieces and nephews.
Yes.
And they are going to play a part in the future of the gemstone industry in Zambia. What would your advice be for them to become world-class cutters? Because far too often, you and I are told that Zambians lack the capacity to add value to gemstones in this country. We can't cut properly. Our cuts are cockeyed. The brilliance isn't there. And even if you did cut a good gemstone, you can't possibly make world-class jewelry.
Right, it goes back to my earlier thought. It is the government will. Where do you want this country? Because the Ministry of Mines or us will have to say, where do we want the gemstone cutting industry to be in 20 or 30 years or from now? I was talking to the people at the school in Dola. I said, you know what? You don't have a clear pathway for your graduates. Okay? They don't have a clear pathway. Okay.
I suppose Jewel of Africa and yourself and a few other players in the industry can't take 500 cutters. There isn't enough production right now to justify it.
Yes, we don't have. But it all boils down to the government. Where do they want the industry to be?
I hear you, Amon, but far too often we keep talking about it's government's fault, it's government's onus. What are you and I going to do about this? How are we going to bring these children up to become good cutters of the naturally endowed mineral wealth that this country has?
It's very simple, Raj. 4 or 5 years ago, I had 5 cutters, okay, working under me. Why? Because the industry was thriving and we had material to cut, right? Right now, after COVID, the production levels have gone down, right? I cannot afford or maintain those workers.
I suppose that's the case for
everybody else. Okay. So the way the industry is going is, one, we have to go back to the basics. And the basics are that production. Once we have enough production, Raj, be rest assured, you will have so much material whereby you will need people, you will need cutters to come and cut the material.
I hear you.
So even I will need cutters to cut that material. So what I will be able to do is that I will be able to go to the school in Ndola and say, can you give me 3 or 5 of your cutters who will work under me, right? And then I'm going to closely supervise them so that my production levels start to increase. So we have to go back to the basics, whereby we have to say, okay, fine, where are we going wrong with the production levels? Because even when you go to emeralds, right, the emerald industry, I mean, they've got so many, they've issued out so many mining licenses. But who in actual fact is producing? When did you last see a nice emerald where you get so excited? You even call me to say, Amon, please come, let's sit down.
It's been a few years, hasn't it?
It's been a few years.
Maybe even before COVID.
Yeah.
But talking about cutting, Amon, what's your favorite stone to cut?
My favorite stone to cut.
What gives you the greatest pleasure?
I think an aquamarine.
Why?
I don't like the problems that come with emeralds.
True.
Yeah. I don't come.
And is our aquamarine world class?
Oh, talking about world class. I mean, we probably have some of the best aquamarines in the world.
Because they are big, because
the luster, the color, just everything, and the clarity that goes with them. It's just.
Can you describe what a good, sweet aquamarine is to you?
Right. That is very difficult to describe. Yeah.
Talk about the color.
Well, I don't really like the deep green, the double blue, but I like the medium color. I think there's one we have there's one that you have upstairs, the big one. Is it the 200 and something carat piece that you have? I think for me that
the
is
once in a lifetime piece.
The once in a lifetime piece. Yeah, that's what I would.
Amon, your passion for the industry, for Zambian gemstones shines quite bright. I'm certain we'd have to have you here for a follow-on podcast. But for today, may I say thank you very much.
Raj, thank you very much.
That was an interesting discussion between the lapidarists.
All right, that's good.
Amon and Raj. I loved how he got almost pedantic and very, very drilled into this is how I want to cut and this is how I enjoy cutting. And he mentioned that he won't cut a stone unless he feels it. I really like that.
Yes, and then we fight often on how he should not cut according to how he feels it, but we should cut according to how we need to sell it.
Yeah.
Right? Because customers come with their own designs in their minds.
Exactly.
And they're the ones who are paying the bills. So sometimes we have to leave the gemstone in a particular way for the buyer to appreciate.
But cutting is also an art. He made me feel like it's an art and it's a personal process. It's almost therapeutic.
Yes.
And they need to be left to their own art.
Sure, but let them try and sell it then. Because then it's on me to sell that piece.
No, it works well. It's a symbiotic relationship.
Yes.
Yeah, but the next guest that you're going to have is pretty interesting.
Yes,
There's another
and
person who has aquamarine
as a birthstone.
As a birthstone,
yes, so we're going to have Lulu Hangala-Wood. Where does the wood come? Lulu Hangala-Wood. So Hangala-Wood is one word. Okay. Yes, and she really carries gemstones very well. She has worn our pieces at different occasions, and I'm looking forward to welcoming her right now.
Okay.
Let's do that.
All the best.
Thank you.
And now join us for the guest segment.
Hello.
Zambia sweetheart.
Oh,
You're
don't
so
stop. I like it.
Welcome to Jewel of Africa.
Thank you so much for having me here
Well, of
again.
course, you've been a Zambian jewel carrier, and you've worn Jewel of Africa a few times.
Yes, quite a number of times.
We're not going to stop that anytime soon. So just let me know when you need to wear the next piece.
I love this, and I'm going to have to say this now because I don't think I've said it to you before, but thank you for being one of the only gemstone businesses that has supported the creative industry. In other countries, you have the women adorned in jewels from their countries, and I wasn't seeing that much. And I remember texting you once and thinking, will she say yes? And you gave me pieces worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, and it was a great way to sell Zambia.
How did you feel?
Amazing, beautiful, and the fact that they were locally sourced, locally made was just incredible. A great way to do tourism also. So thank you for that.
All right, we need to talk about gem tourism at some point.
Yeah, we should.
Yes, so you have walked through the workshop. You have walked through Jewel of Africa. What has been your impression, and why are you here supporting my podcast?
Because I think what you're doing is absolutely important. It goes back again to the gems tourism that we were just talking about. I think coming here really opened up my eyes. I think we had worked together. I just wanted your story to be told. I knew just a bit about it, but getting to fully understand by coming into the workshop, seeing that everything is done from scratch, seeing the women especially in the workshop, seeing the refugees you've been working with also, and just how you're imparting knowledge. You continue to train and upscale the skills of your workers is so important, and seeing that these beautiful pieces are going around the world. And for me, it's just so important to be part of storytelling of what you are doing. That's what I do. I tell stories. Yes. And I feel it's important as Zambians for us to hear this. So it's just been such a blessing to get to understand what you do. And I just want to support it more.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate all of that you've just said. Yes, and the idea is that the next generation understands this, and they can take jewelry and gemstones a level further, and we can become recognized as the leading gemstone brand in the world, not just with our gemstones, but also our jewelry. And eventually we'll start making jewelry that nobody else can make because they don't have the gemstones.
I love it. And
at that point, I want to present you with something.
Oh, really?
That you have already been presented with, but somehow, somewhere, and as we open, dun, 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 there you go. I would love to put it back on you like I did when we had
Thank
the occasion. But if you notice the earrings, they have your birthstone.
I could cry. Oh, this is so nice.
It's so cute, isn't it? Do you want to put them on? Go for it. Go for it. We'll put the necklace, you'll put them on. So Aquamarine is a Zambian gemstone. Are you going to cry?
It's so beautiful.
Don't cry, it'll ruin it. The makeup will run.
Don't mind my ears, just go in. I've just recently pierced my ears.
Okay, no, you do this.
Let me do this.
But let me carry on talking about the story of this.
Please tell me.
So this is hand woven by some of the oldest jewelers in the country, right? So Klaus Reigard, 1974 happened, and we took over Klaus Reigard in 2007. And so we've passed down the secret and the method of creating this hand-woven piece, which we call the Maasai choker, can also be converted to a belt, a bracelet, and a necklace and earrings. So I'm going to put this on you.
Love that.
And hopefully you will talk about it, you will wear it, and I think it looks so elegant on any outfit. And you can also adjust the length by choosing which link you want to put the toggle on. I love you. Yeah. Your surprise element. There you go. Aha. Look around. There you go. Yeah, it just transformed into $1 million, isn't it? And Zambian silver is very pure silver. It's not sterling silver. We don't mix it with a lot of alloys.
Can I give you a fun fact?
Yes.
When you gave this to me, it was the most expensive jewelry I had in my wardrobe. And then I got myself 2 tiny pieces of aquamarine, and I planned to make earrings because I'm new to, like wearing jewelry, and you were the first that really adorned me in jewelry.
I'm glad.
So I had planned to do something with the teardrop, and that's why it's so perfect. And thank you.
You're welcome. And we can add on the aquamarines that you have more onto this. We can hang them as necklace pendants. You look beautiful. Do you feel beautiful?
I didn't expect this. Thank you.
You're welcome. Cut. How are you feeling?
Calm.
All right, you calm down.
But happy.
Well, tell everybody if this is hand woven Jewel of Africa. by one of the oldest jewelers in the country.
Oh, wow.
And he's training the young jewelers to take over and add some more designs. So we'll get more and more creative.
That is so special. One day I need a picture with him.
Oh, right. Maybe we can arrange that.
I
Yes,
think that
no
would
problem.
really be nice. Thank you. I
Well,
really
thank you.
appreciate it. And thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you for coming and being a guest on our podcast. I really appreciate you coming over.
Thank you.
Talk about it. Mwah.
You're beaming. How was that session?
Oh my
It
God,
sounded like you enjoyed
Lulu.
it.
She is the best guest. I mean, she was in tears. And I'm hoping that she'll go out and tell the whole world where she got it and who made it. Because it's one of the oldest jewelers in the country who made it. They hand weave these silver wires. And not sterling silver. So there's, it's almost pure silver. It's Zambian silver.
So the oldest, talk a bit about that.
So the oldest jewelers started in 1974. Klaus Reigard was 1974. And then we purchased Klaus Reigard in 2007. And we inherited 40 jewelers from Klaus Reigard, out of which we still have a few many years later, through COVID, through time. And they had some excellent workmanship skills, knitting skills and crocheting of wires. And the Maasai choker used to be one of their best sellers,
Oh, wow.
which is what I gifted Lulu.
So it's a piece of a legacy.
Yeah, we can say that.
Yeah,
And I
it's
don't know why we call it Maasai, because that's East African.
Yeah,
We should give it a Zambian name.
probably.
Anybody think of something? Let me know.
Yeah, maybe somebody can come up with but they have to see it first.
They have to see it, and they're unsoldered, so they don't tarnish quickly because there's no impurity going into the links that are connected.
Okay, so we have to remember to include an image so that if anybody has a good idea for a name. But are you
Because they
serious
can be
though?
used,
would you
absolutely,
change
because
the
they can be
name?
used as belts. They can be used as bracelets, as chokers, as earrings. It's just a length of crocheted silver.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and some of the links are twisted and some of the links are untwisted, plain.
The legacy
actually beautiful.
continues. Well, that's our episode.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. It was
Look
a
forward
good
to the
one.
next one. Thanks, Samba.
Bye. The Zambian Jewels Podcast was made possible by Jewel of Africa and was produced by Kwatenga Media. Follow, subscribe, like, and comment on our socials for more information.